Good.
Cheap carpet. Cheap rug.
So, thank you very much for making this possible now after this long day here with us in the Fulbright Educational Expert Seminar. You've been introducing to us the idea of OER, especially related to the American community colleges perspective, and you're very active in that field. Maybe in a few key sentences, what do you see is the potential of OER in your context of education?
Great, thank you for that question. Well, we have to remember, first of all, what the particular context is. And if we're talking about community colleges in the United States, our mission is to expand access to serve the top 100% of all students. So one of the ways to do that is to make sure that our students are able to afford the cost of attending college, and to make sure that our students have the learning materials that they need in order to succeed. How can we do that? One way to do that is to do both of those together, is to use open educational resources. Because on the one hand, if we use open educational resources for textbooks, the cost of very expensive publisher materials disappears. It either is zero or very low. So students are more able to afford attending colleges. And then on the other hand, if they're able to gain access to their learning materials at low cost or no cost, guess what? They're going to learn more if they actually have the book.
You mentioned in your speech now that, or presentation, that the role of politics is quite important, and that now in California you have a new legislation which basically obliges community colleges that receive taxpayers' money to put it under a Creative Commons license. Was that correct?
That's correct, with a few small details that I'll throw in. Yes.
So would you consider that to be the role of politics in the future, to engage higher education as such, to put everything under OER?
The short answer is yes, but let me make sure that I provide the details. In California, community colleges, which is the largest educational system in the world, we serve 2.6 million students every year in 112 community colleges, so it's pretty big size. Our community college system adopted a regulation saying that any content or material that is produced or created using the system money must carry a Creative Commons license, which means it's free to use and reuse, mix, and so on and so forth. So that's a great example of the state system taking leadership to say a couple of things. First of all, they're saying that it's important that students have access to content. In addition, I think the state is saying, this goes back to your question about politics, the state is saying if the taxpayers, if the public is paying for creating content, then guess what? The public should own the content, or at least should be able to use it. And the economic conditions differ between Germany and the United States, certainly, but we're very concerned in the United States about the accountability of taxpayer money. If the taxpayers are paying for something, they want to be able to know what it's being used for, and that it's being used fairly and openly. So again, if we're investing taxpayer money in creating something in education, shouldn't it belong to the taxpayers?
One thing that I like about America is that it always seems, well, not always, but often it seems so natural almost. Of course, if the taxpayers' money is there, then why the world shouldn't this be used in this direction?
That's right.
Establish the process. One concern that we were mentioning this conference in Berlin the other weekend. One concern that I was listening to quite sometimes is the quality dimension. That the publishing houses, no matter what you put on the critical side, that at least they provide a quality that you in a way might have difficulties to have in the OER level, and also that you to be careful not to make them perish, because you might lose more than what you actually see on the surface now. How would you deal with concerns like that?
Well, the question about quality of educational materials is very important, because we not only want students to be able to access the materials, but we want them to succeed with those materials, right? If they're learning from something that's no good, then that doesn't really help anybody, doesn't help us achieve our goals. There are a number of different models out there for quality control. Let's go back to the model of the state funding that we were talking about a second ago. We know that state systems give money, often on a competitive basis through grants or different funding mechanisms, to colleges to produce content, to produce curriculum. Those colleges that are doing that work, they want to do the best job possible. They are producing quality work as determined by their standards of their faculty, of their campus culture, of state regulations, of the relevance to the needs of business and industry. So we know that there's a lot of content out there that's being created that is of high quality. So that, I think, addresses that question right off the bat. In addition, sure, we have some colleagues who are writing textbooks, wonderful open textbooks, or a wonderful spirit investing in developing an open textbook, and it might not be up to the standard of a commercial textbook. That happens sometimes, sure. What can we do? Do we just say, oh, that one textbook was junk, so the whole movement is junk? No. That's a kind of argument that doesn't get anybody to the point of practice. How can we help improve that quality? How can we match up a professor who is writing a textbook by herself with a group of peers who want to do peer review, who want to help with the editing? How can we create that mechanism, or that ecology, or that culture? In addition, there is a large community out there, people all over the world who already have produced really high quality work. We know it's high quality work because there are peer review systems in place, or because it has been developed with state funding or foundation funding. So they've got librarians and instructional designers and evaluation experts who have been involved. So take that work and adapt it to your local needs. There's no reason why folks in Germany can't view open education as a translation project rather than a creation project.
So we talked a lot about the institution, about the teaching person, and so on. What is about the students? Can they use the material? Can they see the quality? And are they able to remix the material?
Great question. In a lot. Let's talk about the last question, the remixing. There are some smaller projects of which I'm aware, in which students do remix the material and assist their faculty, their professors, in improving the material. So you can imagine a lot of different disciplines that students are asked to write short papers, or produce exercises, or produce experiments. That kind of material can be wrapped back into the open textbook or back into the open course, and can be used for the next group of students who come along. It doesn't necessarily have to be the best quality, because if you're training students to be critical thinkers, creators, reviewers, researchers, it's an opportunity for them to review the material that their classmates created last year and to improve on it. And students are learning by doing that as well. Think about Wikipedia. Wikipedia now, all over the world in educational settings, is being used in that way, that professors of journalism, professors of writing, are asking students to write articles for Wikipedia, to contribute those articles to Wikipedia, and then see what happens when the Wikipedia community comes back with edits or questions about sources and a style guide. That's a great exercise for students.
This was an exercise which was not possible in Germany, I think. We do not use this in our course. Just to mention.
Why
Very
not?
interesting. Don't know, I think Wikipedia said, we are not a teaching project. We want real content which is interesting for you to use in teaching.
might be a conversation worth having again.
I heard it too. I'm wondering if it was only in English-speaking countries.
I don't know.
Let's see, but maybe one final question.
Of course.
We know we said where we are now in 2013, whether it's a process that some of us have seen before or whether it's something really new. Where do you think we will be at in, let's say, Europe? There's a lot about the EU 2020, so maybe 7 years from now. What is happening with community colleges, let's say, maybe, especially given these directions of MOOCs, of open educational resources? Do people need in a few years' time any more colleges and universities?
I certainly think people need credentials that have been approved. Right? People want credentials. So number one, the traditional higher education system is not going away very soon, I think. But I think certainly over the next 5 to 10 years, you'll see a lot of very heated discussions between innovative institutions and state regulators or accreditors. There will be a lot of questions about, well, why can't we do that? We have data that it works and that the students want it. Why can't we do that? So we'll see a lot of those questions. In addition, I think the big challenge for the open education movement, and certainly for the MOOC movement as well, is to demonstrate evidence of impact. Now, I can point to community colleges all over the United States and Canada can point to how they've saved students money by adopting open textbooks or open educational resources. A small number can point to an evidence of positive impact on learning. That's the big next focus of our work in the open education movement in the United States.
Thank you very much. We now have been switching almost naturally to English, but we know that you speak German, so if you want to say goodbye to our German viewers in this language, you may go ahead.
Vielen Dank für die Möglichkeit, mit Ihnen zu sprechen. Vielen Dank für das Interesse an OER oder freie Bildungsmaterialien. Ich freue mich auf eine künftige Zusammenarbeit mit Ihnen und ich würde mich freuen, Ihnen auf die OCW-Konferenz im Frühling nächsten Jahres in Ljubljana zu sehen.
Herzlichen Dank, dass Sie sich die Zeit genommen haben und ja, so interessante Eindrücke uns heute vermitteln konnten.
Vielen Dank.
Merci.